Hi, this is Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, and you're listening to BriefingsDirect. Our business innovation thought leadership discussion today focuses on the heightened role and impact of total user experience improvements for both online and mobile applications and services. We'll explore how user expectation, rethinking of business productivity, are having a profound impact on how business applications are used, designed, and leveraged to help buyers, sellers, and employees do their jobs better. We'll hear about the advantages of new advances in bringing instant collaboration, actionable analytics, and contextual support capabilities into the application interface and total user experience. To learn more about why applications must have more than a pretty face to improve the modern user experience, we're joined by Chris Hayden, Senior Vice President of Solutions Management for Procurement, Finance, and Network at Ariba, an SAP company. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Dana. Nice to be here.
Glad you're with us. Chris, what sort of confluence have come together to make this concept of user experience so important, so powerful? What's changed, and why must we think more about experience than interface?
Yeah, Dana, it's a great question. There's a confluence of factors, as you say. There's the movement of, if you like, hyper collaboration. Things are moving faster and faster than ever before. We're seeing major shifts in trends on how users view themselves and how they want to interact with their applications, their business applications in particular, and more drawing parallels from their consumer and how they bring that simple consumer-based experience into their daily work. So there's some of the mega trends there. And then as we step down a little bit, within that is obviously this collaboration aspect and how people prefer to collaborate online at work more and more than they did in traditional mechanisms, certainly via phone or fax. And then, last but not least, really, mobility. If someone doesn't really have a smartphone in this day and age, certainly they're behind the eight ball. And then, of course, the factor is just a changing demographic of our workforce. In 2015, there's some stats out there that shows that millennials will become the single largest percentage of the workforce. So all of these macro trends and figures are really going into how we need to think about our total user experience in our applications.
Right. Now, for those of us that have been using applications for years and years and have sort of bopped around, whether we're on a mobile device or a PC from application to application, are we just sort of integrating apps together so that we don't have to change app and that the mobile device is better used in that fashion, or is it something more? Is this a whole greater than the existing sum of the parts in some fashion?
Yeah, it is. It's certainly something more. It's more the 1 + 1 = 3 concept here. The intersection of the connectivity powered by business networks, as well as what the utility of mobile devices or mobile devices not tied to your desktop really can just fundamentally change the way people think about their interactions and think about the business processes and how they think about the work that needs to be done, throughout the course of their work environment. And that really is the difference. This is not about just printing up as you opened up a user interface. This is really about thinking about personal-based interactions in the context of mobility and a network-orientated or network-centric collaboration.
Now, when we think about collaboration, traditionally that's been among people. But it seems to me that this heightened total user experience means we're actually collaborating increasingly with services. They could be services that recognize that we're at a particular juncture in a business process. There could be services that recognize that we might need help or support in a situation where we've run out of runway, don't know what to do, or even instances where intelligence and analytics are being brought to us as we need it rather than calling out to it. Tell me a bit about this expanding definition of collaboration. Am I right that we're collaborating with more than just other people here?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it's putting information, if you like, in the context of the business process right at the point of demand. Now, whether that's like, predictive or intelligence or third party or smart, the best user interfaces and the best total user experiences are bringing that context to the end user, managing that complexity, but contextualizing it to bring it to their attention as they work through it. So whether that's a budget check, and whether there's some gaming on budget check and saying, hey, you're under budget, that's great, that's an internal metric. Or maybe even in the future you start thinking about, hey, how are others performing in other segments of the business? Or even if you want to take it even further, how are other potential suppliers doing on their response rate to their customers? So there's a whole new dimension exactly on giving people contextualized information at the point where they need to make a decision, or even recommending the type of decisions they need to make, whether it's from third-party sources that can come from a business network outside your firewall, or from smarter analysis and predictive analysis from the transactions that are happening within the four walls of your firewall, whether it's in your current application or your other business applications.
Now, it seems pretty clear that this is the way things are going. The logic behind why the user experience is expanded in its power and its utility makes perfect sense, and I'm really enthused about this notion of contextual intelligence being brought to a business process. But it's more than just a vision here. Pulling this off must be quite difficult, because I know that many people have been thinking about doing this, but there just isn't that much of it actually going on yet. So we're at the vanguard. What are the problems? What are the challenges that it takes to pull this off, to make it happen? It seems to me it's a lot of back-end services, and while we focus on the user experience and user interface, we're really talking about sophisticated technology in the data center providing these services.
Yeah, we are. I think there's a couple of things that, some enablers to this. I think number one enabler here is cloud, right, versus on-premise. When you can actually see the behavior, right, in real time, in a community aspect, you can actually build infrastructure services, if you like, around that. Traditional on-premise models, when that's locked in, all of that burden is actually being pushed back, if you like, to the corporate to be able to do that. So I think that's one thing, just the cloud in itself enabling it. I think the second point is when you're in the cloud and when you think about applications that are network aware, you're really able to bring in third-party, validated, trusted information to really help make that difference. So there's those challenges. I also think, too, that it comes down to as much technology, but technology is moving to the focus of building applications for the end user or the owner of the end user. And when you start thinking about how the interactions, how an end user and the focus on them, it really drives you to think about how you give that different contextualized information. And when you can have that level of granularity and saying, hey, I'm logging on as an invoicing processing assistant, or I'm logging on as just a casual ad hoc requisitioner, when the system knows you've done that, it's actually able to be smart and pick up and contextualize that. And that's where we really see the future and the vision of how this is all coming together.
Right. Now, when we spoke a while back about the traditional way that people got productivity was to bop from application to application, whether that's an on-premise application or a SaaS-based application, if they're losing the benefit of a common back-end intelligence capability or network services that are aware or access and identity management that's coordinated, we still don't get that total user experience, right? Even though the cloud is important, a factor here, and SaaS is a big part of it, what brings together the best of cloud but also the best of that coordinated, integrated total experience when you know the user and all of their policies and information can be brought to bear on this experience and productivity demand?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of ways of doing that. I think you could talk about here, Dana, the concept of hybrid, right? The reality is that in most corporates, for a foreseeable future, there will be some degree of on-premise applications that continue to drive businesses, right? And then there will be side-by-side cloud businesses. And so it's the job of leading practice technology providers, SaaS and on-premise providers, to enable that to happen. So there's definitely this notion of having a very robust platform, okay, that underpins the cloud product and can be, if you like, seamlessly integrated to the on-premise product. Again, that's, from a technology and a trend perspective, that's where it's going. So if the provider doesn't have a solid platform approach to be able to link, if they're disparate, if you like, cloud services to disparate, if you like, on-premise solutions, then you can't give that full context to the end user. I think the one thing too is thinking about this, the user interface though. The user interface is job to manage that complexity for the end user. The end user really should not need to know the mode of deployment, nor should they need to know really where they're at. It really is, and that's what the new leading user interface is and what the total experience is about, to take you, if you like, guided through your workflow or your work that needs to be done, effective of the deployment location of that service.
Right. Chris, we spoke last at Ariba Live, the user conference back in the springtime, and you were describing the roadmap for Ariba and other applications coming through 2015 into 2016. What's been happening recently? This week, I think we've gone general availability with some of these services. Maybe you could quickly describe that. Are we talking about the on-premise apps, the SaaS apps, the mobile apps, all the above? What's happening?
Yeah, we're really excited about that. For our current releases came out this week. We really launched our total user experience approach. Where we've got working anywhere, embracing the most modern user design interactions into our user interface, mobility, and also within that, how we can enable our end users to learn the processes and context. And all this has, been launched in Ariba and, within the last 14 days. And, specifically it's about, again, one, just updating the embracing modern user design principles. We've got a great design principle here within SAP called Fiori. And so we've taken that design principle and brought that into the world of procurement to put on top of our leading practice capabilities today, and really bringing this new updated user experience design. But we haven't stopped there. What we've done is, as well, embracing, as you mentioned, this mobility aspect, and how can we design new interactions that between our common user interface on our mobile and a common user interface on our cloud deployment as one. And I think that's given. But what we're doing differently here is it's embracing the power and the capability of mobile devices with cloud and the work that needs to be done. And so one idea of that is how we've got kind of like a process continuity feature where you can look on your mobile application, have a look at some activities that you might want to track later on, click or pin that activity, if you like, on your mobile device. And when you actually come to your desktop to do some work, that pinning activity is visible for you to go in and track and keep your job done. And similarly, if you're on the go to go and have a meeting, you're actually able to push some reports down to your mobile tablet or your smartphone to be able to look and review that work on the go. So we're really looking at that full total user experience, whether you're on the desktop or whether you're on the go on your mobile device, all underpinned by a common user design imperative based upon Fiori.
Interesting. Now, just to be clear, we're talking about not only this capability across those networked services for on-prem, cloud, and mobile, but we're taking this across more than a handful of apps. Tell us a bit about how this on Ariba Network, and into some of the other travel and expense capabilities. What other apps are involved in terms of the line of business platform that SAP is providing?
Yeah, so from a procurement perspective, obviously we have Ariba's leading practice procurement, and as a context, we've got another fantastic solution for contingent labor, statement of work labor, and other services, and that's called Fieldglass. And we've been working closely with the Fieldglass team to ensure that our user interface that we're rolling out on our Ariba procurement applications is consistent with Fieldglass's. and it's based again on the Fiori style of design construct. So again, we're moving towards where an end user, whether they want to interact to do detailed timesheets for service entry, or they want to do, requisitioning for powerful materials and inventory on the Ariba side, is a seamless experience for our customers. And then we're progressively moving forward that same style of construct through the Concur applications for our travel and expense, and even the larger SAP, cloud and S/4HANA approaches as well.
Okay. You mentioned HANA. Tell us a bit about how not only are we dealing with this user experience across device and work mode, but also across application types, but now we've got a core platform approach that allows for those analytics to leverage and exploit the data that's available depending on the type of applications any specific organization is using. It strikes me that we've got a possibility of a virtuous adoption cycle. That is to say, the more data used in conjunction with more apps begets more data, begets more insights, begets more productivity. How is HANA and analytics coming to bear on this?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, we've had HANA running on analytics on the Ariba side for more than 12 months now. And I think the most important thing that we see with HANA is it's not about HANA in itself, and it's a wonderful technology. But what we've really seen is we've seen the customer interactions change because they're actually able to do different and faster types of iterations. And to us, that's the real power of what HANA gives us, from a technology and from a platform aspect. To your point, to build on, when you can have real-time, analytics across massive amount of information put into the context of what an end user does, right? That to us is really where the true business and customer and end user benefit will come from leveraging the HANA technology. So we've got it running in our analytics stack, progressively moving that through the rest of our analytics on the Ariba platform. And quite honestly, the sky's the limit as it relates to what that technology can enable to do. The main focus, though, is how do we give different business interactions, and HANA is just that great engine that enables us to do that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time if you're a developer, because now not only do you have to previously go through a requirements process with the users, but using these analytics, you can measure and see how those users are actually doing work, progressing and modernizing their processes, and then take that analytic capability back into the next iteration of the application. So it's interesting that we're talking about total user experience. We could be talking about total developer experience, or even total IT operator experience when it comes to delivering security and compliance. Expand a little bit about how what you're doing on that user side actually benefits the entire life cycle of these applications.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really exciting, and it comes down to, and there's other great companies that do this, and SAP are really investing in this as well as Ariba, and making sure we're a really data-driven, real-time thinking company. And it's exactly as you're right. I mean, in the simplest way, as we're rolling out our total user experience, in the simplest model, we're providing a toggle, meaning we're enabling our end users to go and road test the user experience, okay? And then switch back. We don't think anyone will want to switch back, but it's great. And that's the same type of experience that, you experience in your personal life when someone's trialing a new feature on an e-marketplace or in a consumer store. You're actually able to say, let's go and try this experience and come back. What's great about that is we're getting real-time insight. We know which customers are doing this. We know which personas are doing this. We know how long they're doing this for their session time. And what we're able to do is take that and bring that back to, as you say, to our developers, to our product managers, to our user design center experts. And as well, just as importantly, back to our customers and also back to our partners, to be able to say, hey, there's some insights. They're doing these type of things. They're not on this page. They've been looking for this type of information when they do a query or a request. So these type of informations we're feeding into our roadmap, but we're also feeding back into our customers so they understand how their employees are working with our applications. And as we step forward, exposing this in the right way to our partners to help them potentially build applications on top of what we already have on the Ariba platform.
Great, that's awesome. So obviously you can look this in the face at that general level of productivity, but now we can get specific with partners into verticals, geographies, all the details that come along with business applications, company to company, region to region. Let's think about how this comes to market. So you've announced the general availability on Ariba. Because this is cloud, because this is SaaS, there's no forklifts, there's no downloads, there's no install and worries about configuration data. Tell us a little bit about how this rolls out and how people can experience it if they've become intrigued about this concept of total user experience. How easy is it for them to then now start taking part in it?
Yeah, no, great. Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, we do not want to give, and it's important, our customers entrust their business processes to us. And so about zero business disruption and no downtime is our number one goal. So when we rolled out our global network release to our 1.8 million suppliers 2 weeks ago, we had a zero downtime on the world's largest business network. And similarly, as we roll out our total user experience, zero downtime as well. So that's the first thing. The number one thing is about business continuity. The second thing really is a concept that we think about is called agile adoption. And this is how we let end users and companies with end users adopt our solutions. So we've done an awful lot of work before go live on educating our customers, providing, frequently asked questions, where required training materials and updates, webinars, all those type of support aspects that you'd think. But we really believe our work starts day +1, not day -1, right? So how are we working with our customers after this is turned on? By monitoring, know exactly what they're doing, giving them proactive support and communications when we see them either switching back or we haven't hit a distribution of a specific customer group or end user group within their company. We'll be actively monitoring that and pushing that forward. And that's what we really think it's about. We're taking this end user, customer-centric view to roll out our applications, but letting our own, if you like, customers find their own pathways.
Okay. Now, we're coming towards the end of our allotted time, but I wanted to see if quickly we could illustrate the power of the total user experience benefits. Do you have any examples or use cases that come to mind, and I don't know whether you can name these organizations or not, where they've gone to that total user experience, they've jumped into the deep end of the pool, if you will, and are now getting something back in return? Any way that we can illustrate what happens when you do this correctly?
Well, I think it's, we've just launched. Let me talk about two things. It's amazing where we started from. It started from, it's a little bit of human behavior. When we talk about, hey, we're rolling out this new user experience, and it's going, well, hang on, how do I test this, and how do I make sure my training materials are all up to date? When we've been taking all of our customers through, the massive positive response, right, from even some of our most conservative, if you like, customers, whether in highly regulated industries or financial industries, right? And when you actually take them through how we're doing it, agile adoption, how this is linked to actually how we interact in our own personal lives, you can see the actual light bulbs going on. So, quite honestly, it's early in our journey. We will be monitoring, how many people are turning on. But if I can back up, I know when we deployed our mobile applications, which is also part of this user experience, so we deployed our first mobile solution first half of this year. We're updating that in conjunction with our user experience update this month. And what we really actually saw is, within a month, we had 25% of our customers already activating this mobile solution. And they did that themselves, right? I think that's the power. The pent-up demand is there, and they can go and consume the capability of this user experience with basically themselves. And I think that's the power of the cloud. That's the power of a really powerful user experience when people are actually self-enabling rather than, if you like, the service provider pushing.
Okay. Before we close out, Chris, if users specifically are intrigued by this, that want to go more mobile in how they do their business processes, want to get those reports and analytics delivered to them in the context of their activity, is there a organic path for them, or do they have to wait for their IT department? What do you recommend for people that maybe don't even have Ariba in their organization? What are some steps they can take to either learn more or, from a grassroots perspective, encourage adoption of this business revolution, really, around total user experience emphasis?
Yeah, I mean, I think really for us, I mean, we've got plenty of material from an Ariba perspective, not just about our solutions, but exactly what you're mentioning, Dana, about what all's going on there. So my first recommendation to everyone would be, educate yourselves and actually have a look at your business. What are millennials in your business? What are the new working paradigms that need to happen from a mobile approach, and go and embrace it? I think the second lesson is, if businesses think that this is not already happening outside of the control of their IT departments, they're probably mistaken. These things are already going on. So I think they're the kind of macro things to go and have a look at. But of course, we have a lot more information about, Ariba's, total user experience thinking, thought leadership, and then how we go about and implement that in our solutions for our customers. And I just, encourage anyone to go and have a look at Ariba.com, and you'll be able to see more about our total user experience and like I said, some of the leading practice thoughts that we have about implementations.
Well, very good. I would also encourage people to perhaps listen or read the conversation you and I had just a month or two ago about the roadmap. So we won't go there today about what comes next, but there's an awful lot in the hamper that you're working on that people will be able to exploit further. So I encourage people to look that up, and we'll link to it. But I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored BriefingsDirect podcast discussion on the heightened role and impact of total user experience for both online, mobile, and existing apps. So we've heard how SAP and Ariba are advancing the benefits of bringing instant collaboration and actionable analytics and contextual support capabilities directly into the application interface and user experience. So please join me now in thanking our guest as we've gone through these issues. We've been here with Chris Hayden, Senior Vice President of Solutions Management for Procurement, Finance, and Network at Ariba, an SAP company. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Dana.
And a big thank you, too, to our audience for joining this business innovation thought leadership discussion focused on a rethinking of business productivity via improved user applications and user experience. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this latest BriefingsDirect thought leadership discussion. Thanks again for listening, and do come back next time.